Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook with Jeff Hoogendoorn, Professional Ag Marketing. Well, we saw mixed trade in both the grain and livestock futures today. Let's unpack this. Jeff Hoogendoorn with me. Jeff, let's talk a little bit about the soybean market first. On the grain side, that was where we saw the big implosion in soybean oil. Limit down moves there on a rumor on the renewable volume obligations?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. As far as what was getting sent to the White House, I haven't found any confirmation on that. Maybe you have, Michelle. But yeah, I think that it's a marketplace that took a rumor, took some headlines, really sold it off aggressively, but extremely impressive to be limit out all day long, all the way across the complex is pretty unusual and certainly impressive on that soybean oil market.
Yeah, no doubt. We had crude oil down as well, so not sure if there was some energy implications, but it did spill over into the soybean market. And did we do any technical damage with the big down day?
Well, yeah, I am a believer that the energy complex does trade together. So certainly with crude being lower today and some pretty bearish news coming out as far as stocks and that sort of thing, probably is putting some extra pressure on the oil as well. But you know, oil itself was on a pretty good run higher, so that's also part of the reason it could have such a big down day, right? But so no real technical damage. Not nearly as much as what you'd think, either in the oil market or in the soybean market. You've got 200-day moving average. A lot of people have been watching that. We bounced off of that today, which is kind of interesting on a lot of these contracts. And then, of course, closed quite a bit higher than that. You've got a bunch of other moving averages kind of congregating right around the close. So you're kind of on the edge there from a technical standpoint. But then you got some lows even from last week that are in kind of the upper 1030 area. I could see them lending quite a bit of support if we do have to challenge this market lower.
Right. And for folks that, weren't watching the rumors all day, I guess we should update them as we talk about the RVOs in the renewable fuel standard on biomass-based diesel. Those went over to the White House, but the rumor, I think, was that the levels weren't as robust as we anticipated, but we'll find out because we don't know what those numbers even are yet. So stay tuned on that, folks. All right. So corn could have certainly been down today pretty hard with what soybeans were doing. Does that market look like it got held up by wheat, or what was going on there today?
Yeah, I was fairly impressed with that market today. There's a couple things going on. Yeah, you look over to the wheat pit, that helps explain it. Looks like a lot of simple short covering going on that wheat market, and as you know, that thing's been getting beat up plenty. And I also think that's a true statement about the corn. I'm really struggling, Michelle, to be sitting here in the 15th of May. Pretty bullish WASD report last Monday, and we just keep putting in lower lows and lower highs. I'm looking at it thinking, boy, we really need some sort of weather premium put into this market. And from these levels, especially, I mean, you're starting to talk about lows that go back to last fall on a lot of these charts. Now, the nearbys last fall were quite a bit lower than this, of course, and something to remember. But yeah, I'm expecting we got to find a bottom here. Maybe if wheat found itself a bottom, maybe the corn did as well today.
Yeah, that was the July contract. It was up about 3 cents. December was still under a little bit of pressure, but with some rains moving through some of these dry areas of the Western Corn Belt, was that a wet blanket, pardon the pun, on that market?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. I mean, the weather's been certainly given everything that the doctor ordered, right? The people that are needing some windows, I think for the most part are getting the planting in. I know there's a few folks that are still struggling out east. We got some warm weather for the folks that were a little too wet. We brought in some moisture into the forecast, a couple different spots. Maybe nothing huge and sweeping, but some stuff that's really going to help fill some voids in the western portion of the Corn Belt. So certainly weather is cooperating right now for lower markets, but we all know how quickly that can change when you're looking at 10 to 14 day forecast, right?
The
Haven't been
cattle
one that
market
has
did
been
not
hard.
have a good day. We had key reversals yesterday in the market. We saw some major follow through selling pressure today. Technically, does it look like the market is rolling over here?
That one too, it doesn't look horrible. There's another market where it's been going up for so long and so far that, some of these smaller setbacks can set back quite a ways before you start looking at a really long-term change in trend. Now, short term, obviously things got pretty ugly, right? We did the big reversal like you mentioned yesterday, and then to follow that up with as much pressure as what we did today, I do think is pretty impressive. Went down through some moving averages, retraced, just about a month's worth of gains in the past 2 days. So, there's a bunch of money jumping on this market, whether it's headlines or, momentum traders or just people that have been sitting on the sidelines saying, I'm not going to jump in front of this freight train, but as soon as it slows down, I'm going to jump on board and see if I can't catch that. Even, like I said, a $10 drop in this market doesn't look horrible from a chart standpoint, and can happen very possible, um, and very quickly. So I think there's plenty of people that are willing to jump on and see if they can grab that first $10 a down and make some good profits. And that's a good reminder to all of us. I mean, there's that type of money sitting around trying to sell off this market, needs to kind of be in the back of our minds as we're messing with this, with a market that clearly is got a huge bull run going on.
Yeah, I think we call these parabolic moves, and we haven't had a big correction, so we were overdue for one. Although we will point out that the cash news was not bad, was it?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to do this in some smaller scales here, and some of it was centered around the tariff situation, so maybe they don't count, so to speak. But trying to set this market back and then the fundamentals just won out at the end of the day, right? They higher cash market again here, this week. The way it looks, we're trying to get some more volume down in the south and maybe some even up in the north yet, but looks like we're going to be a solid $2 better. Meat price have been very impressive. Now that's not unusual going into the holiday, but still the market's got to deal with all that. And I think fundamentals will kind of shrug this off. And other comment I want to make is we get into these marketplaces where the futures start dropping, and then cash can't help itself but follow, right? And I don't think that this is the situation, that allows that to happen. I think the cash is pretty much ignoring what the futures are doing here for a bit longer. And if that stays strong, obviously the futures got to recover.
Gotcha. What about the hog market? Yesterday it followed cattle. Today went the opposite direction. Was that spread unwinding?
Yeah, you kind of wonder if I was impressed by the hogs today. Fundamentals might be getting a little bit better there, but that's been long anticipated, right? So you do kind of wonder if some of the money from the beans and the cattle, if that can't help but find itself into hogs. I think that's very believable. Let's look at the fundamentals, and I know a lot of people are talking about this too, but you got to respect the premium that June market is holding to the index. And then you also have to respect at how flat that index has been. It has been nothing but flat, really going way back to, boy, I would even dare say the first part of February, maybe even the tail end of January. We had upper $80 index. And so that gets pretty concerning when you have June now peaked up over $1, good $10 premium to where the index is at. That
Right.
just tells me you need to get some good news, mostly on the cutout side, and you got to get it in a hurry. Otherwise, these markets are not going to be able to maintain these type of levels in my mind.
Do you think cutouts will go up here, especially with talk of kill cuts?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. The supply situation looks very promising, and obviously that's where some of the optimism is coming from. We haven't really cut the kills back in that whole time frame I was talking about, steady markets as far as fundamentals go, and we are going to start doing that. Obviously, we got a holiday kill coming up, but we're going to start cutting back into the 5-day work week starting next week, the way it sounds. So we'll be using any excuse we can to cut these kills because the supply really isn't there. So yeah, I would be very suspicious that cutout's probably going to start rallying. But the challenge is what's already priced into the futures, and will it rally enough in order to keep June, at the 101 area, and July above 104. I think that's going to be tough.
Yeah, those are some technical chart areas that we got to get through for sure. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Jeff Hoogendoorn with Professional Ag Marketing. And that is Markets Now.